Hello everyone, welcome to Ajiro Tech. Ajiro Tech. In this video, we're going to be looking at the IGCSE CIE Information and Communication Technology. And we're looking at the course code 0417, paper 1, which is the theoretical aspect of it, variant 11. And this is a paper that was released few hours ago as of the time of this recording, November 2024. Please take note that the duration of this paper is 1 hour 30 minutes. The instructions are very important, so please go through the instructions, okay? And they would help you a lot. Total mark is 80 marks, okay? So I'll be a good student by writing my name first. So I have my candidate name here. My center number has always been AN017. Okay. That's my center number. My candidate number is 2024. Okay. Question 1. Analog and digital computers are used by computer system. This is something you see in chapter 1 of the textbook, which is what? Types and components of computer system. Okay. So they said state one reason why analog data has to be converted to digital data. Now let's look at this. We've come to know that there are certain things you need to know here. Now let's look at the analog computer. When we talk about analog computer, they are in continuous form. It's so important. They're in continuous form. And because they're in continuous form, um, it is continually changing. But digital data, they process data in discrete form. And now there's a state one reason why analog data has to be converted to digital data. Why do we have to convert the analog to digital? We know that when it comes to the sensor, because this measures the physical environment, right? And it needs a piece of hardware, to convert it to what the computer can understand. Because what the computer can understand is discrete, which is what? 0 and 1, right? 0 and 1. That's all which is binary, right? Binary. So for us to be able to state the reason why this is possible, we would see that number one, so that it can be processed by the computer. And it is the only reason there is because for us to be able to convert it to analog, it goes through the process like this. So we have this. So we have the sensor, we have the ADC, we have the microprocessor, we have the DAC, we have the actuator. So this is the whole process in which it goes through. So this is very important. So here, so that it can be processed. Okay, this is the reason why. So it can be processed by a computer. State one reason. So this is this part. Let's look at it now. It says state one reason why digital data might have to be converted to analog. Now, again, why does it need to be converted? Again, so that it can be understood. Because again, the whole idea of conversion to the actuator is that it can be able to control something. So let's look at it that way. So one point we can look at this is the fact that it can be used in controlling systems. Okay, it can be used in controlling system. If you're looking at other points, you probably see it as the fact that it can also be understood by user because again, um, the computer doesn't understand binary. So that simply means that with the function of the DAC, which is what this simply means here, is that this means analog to digital converter. That's what it means, to digital converter. Okay, and this right here, the DAC, means digital to analog converter. That's what it means. Okay, that's what this means. So we can see that this can be used in controlling what systems. If you're looking at it in other points, I'll probably just use a different color. So since this is for others, as my culture has always been for others, we have it that um, so it can be understood. So the data can be understood by a human. Can be understood by humans. Okay. Let's look at the second. Let's look at the question 2. They said complete each of the following sentences. Software that the user requires to carry out a task. So we're still looking at this on. This is also going to be chapter 1. Okay, so this is chapter 1. All right, so because this is chapter 1, this is still part of software. So this is the subtopic here is software. Mhm. Software that the user requires to carry out a task is called. Now, when we talk about application software, it is a software that allows user to be able to carry out a specific task. That is just what it is. A user to be able to carry out what? A specific task. So this is application. Application. Because it is providing the user, right? Right? It is providing the user with a service that this user requires to solve a given task. That's what it does. So it provides the services that this user requires to solve a given task. Software that the computer requires to operate is called what? The system software. Now, when we talk about the system software, we see that the system software is designed, right? It is designed to provide what? A platform. That's what it is. It is designed to provide a platform on which all other softwares, on which all other software can run. See that now. So this here is what? The system software. The next one is the collective name for the physical component of a computer. Now, when we talk about hardware, hardware is the physical component that makes up a typical, right? It makes up a typical what? Computer system. That's just what it does. It makes up a typical computer system. And each of them here, so this is still chapter 1. This is still chapter 1. Okay, this is still chapter 1. Okay, so this here is what? Hardware. Now, let's look at the next one. The component used to process instruction in a computer, right? So that process that's used to process is what we call the central processing unit. Now, you need to understand something about this, and probably I can just, again, when it comes to past papers, drilling on theoretical, I don't just solve a past paper, I explain the concept. When we look at the CPU, let's look at it. When we look at the CPU, by which is the central processing unit, you will see that this is what? A part, right? It is a part of the computer system. that what interprets. It is the part of the computer that interprets and executes. See that now? Execute the commands from the computer hardware. And software. That's what it is. So it is the part of the computer that interprets and executes what the commands from the computer hardware and software. And that is why we have them in this. So you probably see that we have the ALU and then we have what? The CU. Now this, sorry, we have one more again, sorry. So we have this. So we have the CU, right? And then we have, right, a small memory location, which is called what? The register, right? Which is called what? The register. So this here is a small memory what? Location. The CU talks about the control unit. The ALU talks about the AU and the LU, which means arithmetic unit. And what does the arithmetic unit does essentially is to carry out any form of what? Calculation. That's what it does, is to carry out what? Any form of what? Calculation. Logical talks about comparison. It compares between two files, right? So we have the logical unit. Okay, so that's what we have here. So again, the central processing unit can also be seen as what? A microprocessor. Please take note. A what? A microprocessor. Okay, put this here. Yeah. Okay, so that's what we have what? The central processing unit. So now you know this. The central processing unit. Okay. Okay, so hope we're having a good time. All right. Okay, so let's look at the next one. Question 3. A student uses a laptop for his studies. The laptop uses both backing storage and internal memory. Describe the difference between a backing storage and internal memory. Now, this here is still chapter 1. I always tell you the chapters on where you can get this. So you probably see this in chapter 1, which is types and component of the computer system. Types and component of types and component of computer systems. See that now? Okay. So we talked about the internal. When it comes to the internal memory, they have what? The RAM and what? The RAM and ROM, which is the random access memory and the read-only memory. And when we talk about the backing storage, right, is able to store large amount. Is able to store what? Large amount. So this stores what? Large amount. Large amount. This large amount. Large amounts of what? Data. Okay. So it is permanent, and that is why this is seen as a non-volatile. Okay. So this is very important. So it stores large amount of data, which this cannot, which is the internal memory cannot. So when we talk about the differences here, we will see that differences between them. And how many marks is this? So this is 4 marks. So how do we put this here? So this is it here. So we'll see that the backing storage, first key point, let's look at it. Backing storage, devices, holds their content permanently. Okay, even when powered on. Okay, and we see for the internal storage. So we can see that Y, okay, the internal memory okay, in this internal memory here, we are seeing that the RAM content are lost when computer is powered down. Let's look at another one. Backing storage have considerably larger capacity to store data. And why? Internal memory are much smaller memories. One of the things we see here is for the backing storage, backing storage so backing storage are secondary storage. Why? Internal memories okay, so internal memories are primary storage. Okay, so hope we're learning today. And finally, we can see I've given you more than four because again, this can be marked three here and then one. That's the whole essence. So three can be marked from here and then one here. But I just want to explain and teach you how to get enough points. Okay, so here we can see that when it comes to the internal memory, which is of course the RAM and ROM, can be read directly by the CPU. By the CPU. Okay, so this is probably enough point for today. Okay, let's look at the B part of it. State one example of internal memory. Of course, with you just need to pause this video and then try to give that one mark, because obviously I've explained the whole concept for it. So again, it has two, which is the random access memory and the read-only memory. So you can choose any one from it, right? So this is random access memory. Okay, random access memory, right? You can also say RAM and it will be marked, because again, we all know what the RAM is. The examiners know what the RAM is. So this is very important. Okay, so the thing we've tweeted on this. So what else is this? Cloud storage is an example of backing storage. Now, when it comes to cloud storage, we're looking at it in chapter 4, right? Which is networks and the effects of using them. And if this is an example of backing storage, we're still looking at it at chapter 1. So the key focus here is chapter 1, because it says state one other examples of backing storage. So which is still chapter 1. So the examples of backing storage here that we'll talk about is your removable. Okay, we'll look at the removables. There are removables storage. So we have them as our solid state devices. So one example is our solid state. Okay, solid state devices. If you want to add others, okay, because we don't call the products. That simply means that we don't call um um your other products it is, or CD or DVD, although we talk about it, right? We just put them in categories, which is easier for you, right? So here we can look at it in others, right? So if you're looking at it in others here, you probably see we have magnetic storage. Okay, so we have magnetic storage, um or magnetic devices. Then we have optical. So we have optical devices. To anyone, storage devices, anyone. Okay, so we have that. Okay, so we have that. Okay, now let's look at the next one here. They said a student is considering using cloud storage. So here with cloud storage, this is chapter 4. So this is chapter 4 here, and which is what networks and the effects of using them. Okay, of using them. So let's look at this. They say evaluate this type of storage. So how do we evaluate this type of storage? Now let's look at this. So here we have, when we talk about the word evaluate, let's talk about the command words evaluate. Command words are very important when it comes to IGCSE ICT. Now, when we talk about evaluate means to judge or to calculate the quality, the importance of something. For the evaluation should be for you to be able to earn 6 marks. It simply means that you have to look at the benefit and drawbacks of this type of storage, which is what the cloud storage. So you're looking at the positive, you're looking at what the negative. So let's talk about the positive. Let's talk about the positive. Let's talk about the benefit. Okay. So here you can see the benefit here. Let's talk about the benefit here. So let's look at it. Benefit, right? So this is 6. So that simply means that if it's 6, it's 3 3, or it could be 4 2, right? So let's look at this. So the first one we want to look at here is the fact that it is, let's start with the first one. We can data or your files, whichever you want to call it, can be accessed at any time, from any device. Okay, from any device. Okay, then the next one is this: automatic backup. Automatic backup of data to ensure data is not lost. Okay, so this is very important. And not only that, we can see that it can provide the user with a remote backup of data. Okay, so it can provide the user with remote backup. So in the case of any form of disaster, and even if the hard disks or there's a failure of the hard disk or any backup device, the cloud storage will always allow recovery of their data. So this is very important. Another one I want to talk about is data, which is key, is data can be synced to ability to synchronize files to ensure they are automatically updated. So data can be synced across multiple devices. Right? I can add something here, which is a very key one. User only pays for what they use. Okay, I think we've dragged this a little bit, haven't we? Let's talk about benefit, drawbacks. Let's talk about drawbacks. For drawback, data control is lost, which is a security concern. So here we can see that when we look at the drawback, we see that it is a security aspect of storing data because you don't have control. And the way cloud storage is, it is where our data are stored, right, in a remote server. And there are thousands of remote servers distributed in different locations, right? And and the whole idea is to ensure that when it's time for maintenance and repairs, right, um, you can always access your files. However, this is a concern because it simply means that your files is distributed across multiple servers. So the data control is lost. You don't literally have controls of your files because the data cloud providers can have access to it if they want. Hope we're learning today. The next one is it requires a stable internet connection. Okay, a stable internet connection when accessing or downloading your files. Let's look at the next one. Another one I want to talk about is the potential failure. The potential failure of the cloud storage company is always possible. Okay, it's always possible. And if there's a failure, you're going to lose your files, right? Okay, I think I've stretched this long enough.
A lot, and you're like, okay, do you have a private tuition? Don't you have? Do you have? And yes, Ajiro Tech do have a private tuition. So by my right, you can see that we have for the Edexcel and Cambridge IGCSE, and yes, we do have for all subjects. Okay, all subjects. Okay, the popular ones that's always been in demand is mathematics, English language as a second language. Okay, we have physics, we have biology, we have chemistry, and we have you know the flagship, which is ICT, just here and there. We also have business studies. So if you're interested for a private tuition, I think all you have to do is send an email to the sales team at ajirotech@gmail.com, and they would reply to you, talk about your time zone, talk about and the fee is really quite affordable. Really, it's really quite affordable. It's when you look at it across other tutoring service, I think this is the one that's quite affordable and you get the very best of service. We also have for the E levels as well, and also for the Edexcel. So we have for the Cambridge E levels and Edexcel E levels. Okay, and we have also across the subject mathematics, which is usually the hot cake when it comes to E level, mathematics and chemistry, and then biology. These are usually one of the ones we have in demand always, all the time. Even physics, for E level. So all you have to do, if you're watching this right now and you are interested for a private tuition, then you can do yourself a solid, okay, and send an email to the sales team at ajiro@gmail.com, and they'll reply to you. And the good news about this is, what I've discussed with the sales team is, we've tried as much as possible to see how we can subsidize the amount according to countries, so it doesn't really look very, very heavy. Okay, so this is really important. Yes, we do charge in pounds, but again, we try to be as much as possible considerate to your countries, and we don't just skyrocket the price. No, because at the end of the day, we know how it feels, and we really want you to actually get the best of service, and again, be able to afford it from the comfort of your home. So again, Ajiro Tech private tuition is currently ongoing. You can enroll yourself for the IGCSE and then for the E levels. Again, for the IGCSEs, these are the subjects, and for the E levels, these are also the subjects. So again, what are you waiting for? Just send an email to the sales team. If you're an IGCSE student preparing for IGCSE, if you're watching this in 2025, watching this in 2026, watching this in 2027, we're currently ongoing, and this is actually a good time for you to actually explore and then get it tailored to your own needs. So trust me, you don't want to miss out.
All right, let's look at the next one. A graphical user interface can be used in expert system. Describe the benefit and drawbacks of a graphical user interface. And this is here is chapter 1 of the textbook. And here we're looking at user interface. Now, it is important for you to understand that when we talk about operating system, one of the things about operating system is that it allows communication between user and the computer system, right? And that brings us to what we call the user interface. And when we talk about the graphical user interface, and it's important for you to understand that it allows user to interact with a computer, right? Using what we call the WIMP system. I'm going to put this down. Using what we call what? The WIMP system. So that simply means that this is what? The windows, the icons, the menus, the pointing device. The pointing device. So let's talk about it. Now we understand the concept of it. Let's talk about it. And because of that, it's user friendly. Okay, it is user friendly. So let's talk about the benefit between them. So here we can see, let's talk about the benefit. I always start with the benefit. So let's write the benefit here. Benefit. So one of the benefit is that no need to learn any. No need to learn any commands. Okay. It is user friendly. Okay. So that means icons are used to represent applications. How many marks is this? This is 6 marks. Okay. So we're having a good time, aren't we? Okay. Um, commands do not need to be typed. Doesn't need to be typed. Let's talk about drawbacks. Drawbacks. Okay. So one of the things about the GUI is the fact that it uses up considerably more computer memory. And another one is the fact that users are limited to the icons provided on the screen. the screen. Yeah, this is the screen. Okay. The next one we can talk about, it can be slow. It can be slow for experience programmers to use. Okay, programmers to use. Okay, think of um if that were the way around it. Okay, hope we're having a good time. Mhm. Describe input and output involved in the use of an expert system. Now, when we talk about expert system, this is something you see in chapter 6, right? ICT application. And you probably see it in 6.8. Now, when we talk about the expert systems, their expert systems are developed to mimic the expertise. Probably write this down because I want you to learn. So expert system are developed to mimic the expertise. That means people who are knowledgeable in this field, right? And knowledge of an expert in a particular field. So that simply means that um, people grow up and they die. That's the truth, right? But right, but if we're able to get the knowledge, right, it simply means that we can store it in the system in such a way that all their findings, experiences, people can always go back to it. And these expert systems are used in, it could be strategic games, medical diagnosis, route scheduling for delivering vehicles. It could be identifications of plants. It could just be any kind of diagnostic, really, And talking about, and that is why we have them, the structure of the expert system in such a way that we have the user interface, we have the inference engine, which is more or less like search engine. We have the explanatory system that explains the whole process. We have the knowledge base, which is a repository of facts where the knowledge are stored. And we have a rule base, right, that ensures that whatever search or queries that is done, the appropriate answers are being given. That is just what it is in a nutshell. And when we talk about the input and output involved, let's look at the input. And how many marks is this? 4 marks. Let's look at the input. We have data from expert is entered. Okay. You can see corrections are collected. That's also input because again, we need to send this data into the system. So corrections are also entered. What else? The user interface. Users has to type in. It could be a type question of yes or no, right? Because the user interface is where the user are able to type in their is it yes, is it no, do they want to go further, right? So the user answers the questions. Okay, so the users answer the questions. by typing yes or no. So the questions being asked usually have a yes or no and are based on responses of the previous what answer. Let's talk about the output. I've talked about three already, so let's talk about output. Again, I'm just giving you all the facts. Let's talk about output. Now for the output, if the first thing we talk about is the data that is entered, as the first one, data entered is displayed on the screen. The other one is a list. Okay, probably just use this. For others, okay, let's put this for others. For others, we have a list of diagnosis or the results is displayed. We also see an explanation because we have an explanation system to explain how the result was being arrived. An explanation is displayed. Okay, so this is very important. So we have the user interface, the explanation system, and the whole idea for the explanation system is the fact that it informs the user of the reasoning behind the expert system conclusions. Okay, so this is very important. An organization is planning to replace its desktop computers with laptop computers. Construct a laptop computer with a desktop computer. And this is something you would see in chapter 1, okay, which is types and components of computer system. So now we have types of computers and we have desktop computers as one of them, and then we have what we call the mobile computers. We have the mobile computers. Now the mobile computers is splitted into the following. It's splitted into laptop computers, smartphones, tablets, phablets. And now we want to construct. Now the key word about construct is the fact that it means difference. We have compare. Okay, it's important that you learn all those things. We have compare, and we'll talk about compare. Compare talks about identity, right? That talks about similarities. Okay, it talks about similarities. In most cases, it can also mean differences. Okay, it can be similarities and or differences. But in this case, for construct, we're talking about commenting on the difference. So let's talk about they said construct a laptop computer with a desktop computer. And how many marks was this given? This is 6 marks. So let's talk about it real quick. So what are the differences between them? Okay, so the first one is they said contrast a laptop computer with a desktop. So the first one we'll look at here is the fact that when it comes to a laptop computer tend to be lighter in weight. The next one we talk about is the fact that laptop computer can run by battery power. Again, laptop computers are more difficult to repair. More difficult to repair. And also because they're difficult to repair, they can also be expensive to repair. Expensive to repair. Once again, um, when you compare laptops with desktop, um, the components of desktop, because we know that when the desktop they have different separate components, but for the laptop they are integrated as one. Okay, that simply means you have your mouse, your touchpad, which is your mouse, your keyboard, your monitor, all integrated together. But for your desktop, it is separate. So the component of a desktop tend to be standardized. Therefore, if there's any issue on any component, it's very easy to replace. But when it comes to the laptop, it's very difficult to do that. Okay, so this is um very important. And another one is laptop computers are mobile computers. That simply means that we can actually move with it. But the desktop computer, you can't actually be going around with desktop computers. I'm moving with a desktop computer. Hello, I'm moving a desktop. No, come on. You can actually do that. Right. So laptop computers are mobile computers. So this is one, two, three, four, five. And the final one, they tend to have a small footprint because again, that laptop computers by inches and inches. Okay, so they have small screens. Okay, so we can put that as well. Laptop computers tend to have smaller screens. Okay, so this is 6 point. All right, stage 2, direct data entry. So you see this in chapter 2, where we talk about the inputs and output devices. Okay, so let's look at it. So to direct data entry, so we have, let's go with the optical mark reader. So essentially, the optical mark reader are used to read marks. That's what it does. We have the optical character reader that reads, convert handwritten to digitized format. Okay, so we have the optical character reader. So here you can say OMR, and then here you say OCR. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, so let's look at I want to talk about other ones because again it would be a good time to just talk about other ones as well. Okay, so let's do that really. So I'm just gonna do this for others. Do I have enough space? I'll probably try to figure this out. So for others, we have the magnetic stripe. The magnetic stripe reader. And when we talk about the magnetic stripe reader, it simply means that they read information on the magnetic stripe that is found on the back of a credit or debit card. Okay, so this is it contains useful information. It can contain your sort code, your account number, expiring date, start date, and so important. And that is why they can be used for ATMs or EFT POS, which of course you see in chapter 6. It can be used as security device into gaining entry into buildings, hotel rooms, and so forth. The other one is the radio frequency identification. The radio frequency identification. Okay, so this means the RFID reader. Now let me explain what the RFID reader does. So what this does, right? Actually, what this does is the fact that it uses a radio wave, right, to read and capture information that is stored on a tag. Okay, so in some scenarios, these tags can be read from a distance. Okay, so essentially, when it comes to the RFID, it has a microchip and an antenna. So the antenna is used to receive and transmit data or information. The microchip, on the other end, can store and process this information. There are two types. So basically, you see, I'm not a very good I'm not a very good artist, but I think I can probably paint a picture here. So you probably have something like this. For think something like this. If I'm if I'm drawing this well, something like this. So then we can have something like this here as something, right? Okay, so they go like this. So this is like the tag. Okay, so we have an antenna here. This is like the antenna. Okay, and they're all connected here. And then you probably have something like this as a reader. Okay, probably have something like this like reader. And then you have back and forth the computer. Okay, back and forth the computer. So this is what you have essentially. So this is what you have. So this is how it behaves. The next one is the barcode. The barcode. Okay, so I have the barcode reader. Now, when it comes to the barcode, they read information in the form of a barcode. Okay, so that simply means that there is a scanner that reads that information. Once those barcodes have been imputed into products, it can be able to read them, and that is why we use them in supermarkets. We use them in libraries to keep track of books. For supermarket, we can use the where goods are marked with the barcode to give information about the product, which is usually the product item and the product price. Okay, and so forth. We have QR, which is the quick response code, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so essentially, when it comes to past papers, when it comes to theoretical questions, this is where I strive well, because essentially I'm not just doing solving or give you an answer, I'm also teaching you. Okay, let's look at question 7. And it says one function of a router is to route data packet. Identify two other functions of a router. Now, when it comes to this, you see this in chapter 4. Let me use this. Come on, let me change the pen. So this is chapter 4, which is networks and the effects of using them. Okay, so when we look at what a router does, right, we can see that it routes data packet from one network to another network. And this is usually done by routing it to within a network or to another network. In this case, with the help of the switch, it goes to the router, and then it extends it to an external network, and thereby you having what we call your internet. Yes, there are modern um, broadband, okay, that can that combines the function of a router and a switch. So this means that it would store the MAC address and the IP addresses to enable data packet to be sent to the correct network and then to the correct device on the network. Okay, so few things you need to know, because this is always a factor. Few things you need to know is when it comes to a router, they read data packet. So data packet essentially, we'll talk about data packet, simply means that any data that is sent on a network that moves around on a network is called a data packet. So when a user sends some data, right, that data is split up into numbers of packets, and each packet is transmitted separately. Look at the keywords, right? Separately. So that simply means that the data packet is going to have the following: sender's IP address, receiver IP address, the identity number of the packet, to ensure that once that packet is reassembled, it reaches the destination. We look at the packet size, okay, and to ensure that the person receiving it gets the total amount of size, and then we look at how many data packet will make up the whole message. I think I've said so much about this, so let me put this down. So the question 7: one function of a router is to route data packet. Identify two other functions of a router. When we talk about what a router is, it is important for us to understand that what a router does, as much as possible, is to route data packet from one network to another based on an IP address. I think I need to write this down. Okay, so please write this down. Routers are used to route data packet from one network to another based on an IP address. This is very important. So it does this because each router has its own IP address. Okay, it has its own what? IP address. Okay, so routers essentially, I think for our show notes, routers are used to join a LAN, which is a local area network, to the internet. That is what it does. Okay, so they are used to join a LAN to the internet. So when we talk about the function of a router, the first one is to route data packet. We've looked at it from the definition why that is so. Other functions we can put here is that now a router, right, has what we call a routing table, right? Has what we call what the routing table. Now, because the routing table contains computer addresses of all the computers on a network, it will be able to work out that the data packet is intended for a computer on its network. So you see that. So when a data packet reaches a router, the first thing it does is to examine an IP address. But the reason why I'm talking about this because when we talk about the function of a router, we see that it forwards. Put this here. It forwards packet based upon a routing table. It also stores computer addresses because now I said something here that because the routing table contains computer addresses of all the devices on its network. So one of the function is that it stores computer what addresses. Of course, it connects the obvious one of the obvious function I think everybody should write. You can put this as others. Is the fact that it connects devices and network to the internet, to the external network, in this case, the internet. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's look at the B part. Explain how a router routes data packet to a destination. And I'm going to explain this. I'm going to explain this in a very simple term and then we'll try to summarize this as much as possible. When a data packet is received on one of the ports of a router. Now, and I'll probably just let me see if I can draw this. I want to paint a picture for you and then I can use this to explain. So now we have fair warning, right? I'm not a very good artist, but I think I make do. So I have computers right here. This is some computers and please don't laugh, right? Don't laugh at my drawing. Promise me you're not laughing. Okay, I can see some face. I can see the expression. You're laughing. It's not cool, but don't laugh, right? So okay, so we have this. All right, so we have this here. So this is all connected to a switch, right? And in turn is connected to a server. So here is a computer, 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 right? And from this switch here, we have what we call the router. Let me put this here. We have what we call what? The router. This is the router. Okay. And here we have what we call the internet. Okay, so we have this. Okay, so you get the picture. So when a data packet is received at one of the port, right? What happens is that the router is going to inspect the IP address and determine whether, right, that data packet is meant for its own network, which is this, or is meant for this, the external network. If if the data packet is meant for its own network, then the data packet is routed to this local switch here. Okay. Otherwise, it is transmitted to a different router. So in this case, there could be another router here, right? Or it could be an external network, right? Now, what happens is that the routers know where to send the data packet. And why? Because the router has a routing table. Okay, has what we call what? The routing table. Are you with me? And this routing table will contain information about the router's immediate network, such as what? The computer addresses. Such as what? The computer what? Addresses. So we have the computer addresses. Okay, I'm just painting a picture, right? I'm painting a picture here, all right? And will contain the what? The computer what? Addresses. And on the network, okay? Now, this is very important because the information about the router, it is within that routing table. So when it reaches the router is able to now examine it. And once it's examined it will now know, okay, this is for this is for this is for this. And this is important. That is why the modern routers, right, functions has the function of a router and a switch. So this simply means that they can store the MAC address, which is the media access control. That's what the MAC address does. The media what? Access control. And of course, the media access control uniquely identifies what? Your device. And what? The IP what? Addresses to enable the data packet to be sent to what? The correct network or to the correct device on the network. I hope this actually makes sense. Okay. So let's see how we can put this into work. So this is our 4 marks. Let's see how we can put this into work a bit. Let's see how we can do this. So let me switch this to. Okay. So the first thing we look at, because you have to put it in step, is the data packet. Explain. Now look at the set. Explain how a router routes data packet to a destination. So what happens is the data packet, trying to summarize here, contains an IP address of the computer. All right. The router reads the data packet. Okay. The data packet. The next one is the data packet the data packet contains the IP address of the destination. And the router searches the IP address with its routing table. Okay, so what happens here is, since it searches the IP address routing table, the data packet is forwarded to the next router. Okay, so this is the whole process. Okay, and of course it would continue be sent to and we can add this, the data packet continues being sent to this subsequent routers until it reaches the target device. Okay, so this is very important. So this is the whole process. Okay, and even if the destination address is still not known, it would use the default route. Okay, so still not a problem. Okay, a student needs to ensure her data is kept safe. When the student logs into the university computer system, a physical token is used as an authentication method. Explain what is meant by physical token. Now, you will see this in chapter 4. So this is also chapter 4 under authentication methods. Chapter 4, networks and the effects of using them. Okay, so you see this under what? The authentication word, under network issues and communications, and then you probably see that other authentication methods. So let's talk about physical tokens. Let's talk about physical tokens. This is very important, so let's talk about it. Now we'll talk about physical token. It is a form. Okay, that's like I said. Explain what is meant by physical token. And how many marks is it? This is 2 marks. Okay, so let's see how we can put that. So a physical token is a form of authentication in the form of physical or solid object. That's the first thing we look at. Again, form of authentication in the form of a physical solid object. Okay, so it simply means that it also provides an extra layer of security. That's what it means. Because essentially, The user interaction with the login system is used to prove that the user has possession of the token. So that physical token contains an internal clock. And when a PIN and other authentication details are entered, then a one-time passcode is generated. So it is being shown on this physical solid object, which has a small screen, and it changes on a regular basis. So it provides an extra security layer. So it does that. Okay, if you want to put for others, because we do that very well in this YouTube channel, generates a single, just like I said, use code to use when accessing a website. Okay. All right. Let's look at the B part.
A lot, and you're like, okay, do you have a private tuition? Don't you have? Do you have? And yes, Ajiro Tech do have a private tuition. So by my right, you can see that we have for the Edexcel and Cambridge IGCSE, and yes, we do have for all subjects. Okay, all subjects. Okay, the popular ones that's always been in demand is mathematics, English language as a second language. Okay, we have physics, we have biology, we have chemistry, and we have you know the flagship, which is ICT, just here and there. We also have business studies. So if you're interested for a private tuition, I think all you have to do is send an email to the sales team at ajirotech@gmail.com, and they would reply to you, talk about your time zone, talk about and the fee is really quite affordable. Really, it's really quite affordable. It's when you look at it across other tutoring service, I think this is the one that's quite affordable and you get the very best of service. We also have for the E levels as well, and also for the Edexcel. So we have for the Cambridge E levels and Edexcel E levels. Okay, and we have also across the subject mathematics, which is usually the hot cake when it comes to E level, mathematics and chemistry, and then biology. These are usually one of the ones we have in demand always, all the time. Even physics, for E level. So all you have to do, if you're watching this right now and you are interested for a private tuition, then you can do yourself a solid, okay, and send an email to the sales team at ajiro@gmail.com, and they'll reply to you. And the good news about this is, what I've discussed with the sales team is, we've tried as much as possible to see how we can subsidize the amount according to countries, so it doesn't really look very, very heavy. Okay, so so this is really important. Yes, we do charge in pounds, but again, we try to be as much as possible considerate to your countries, and we don't just skyrocket the price. No, because at the end of the day, we know how it feels, and we really want you to actually get the best of service, and again, be able to afford it from the comfort of your home. So again, Ajiro Tech private tuition is is currently ongoing. You can enroll yourself for the IGCSE and then for the E levels. Again, for the IGCSEs, these are the subjects, and for the E levels, these are also the subjects. So again, what are you waiting for? Just send an email to the sales team. If you're an IGCSE student preparing for IGCSE, if you're watching this in 2025, when this is in 2026, when this is 2027, we're currently ongoing, and this is actually a good time for you to actually explore and then get it tailored to your own needs. So trust me, you don't want to miss out.
The student had received an email with an attachment. She needs to download the attachment and store it in her hard disk. Okay? Describe the steps that the student needs to take to ensure her data is kept safe when she downloads the attachment. Now, this will bring us to what we call Chapter 8 of the textbook. Chapter 8, which is what? Safety and security. Safety and security. So, one of the things we look at is the steps. So, let's look at the step to ensure data is kept safe when she downloads the attachment. So, here we have she can download, she can download an anti-malware software. Okay, and ensure the anti-malware is updated. Okay, another thing she can do, she can set, because you have to relate to the question, the email account to scan any email. Okay. 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 The email could email containing attachment, containing attachment, okay. She can scan she can scan emails for viruses. And if no viruses are found, she can download the attachment. Okay. If a virus is found, she needs to delete the email. Okay. Without, so this email is the one that contains attachment. So just in case, without opening it. Okay. I think we've covered everything literally, because again, that's the whole process. And this would so more or less you have 1 2, so this is probably a 1, this is probably a 2, this is a 3, right? This is a 3 here, um this is a 4, um okay, so this is a 5, a 6, a 7. So we have more points. Okay, let's look at question 9. State 3 health problems that can be caused by entering data for a long period of time. So let's talk about that. So this will take us to chapter 5 of the textbook, right? Which is what? The effects of using IT. So this is chapter 5. Chapter 5, which is what? The effects. Put this here. The effects of using IT. Okay? Effects of using IT. So, and of course, we see this under the the potential health problems related to the prolonged use of what? IT equipment. So the health problems that can be caused by entering data for a long period of time. When you enter data for a long period of time, you probably start seeing what we call an eye strain. And what is the cause for the eye strain? That is when you're staring at a computer screen for a long period of time. You start seeing what we call the RSI, which is called the repetitive, right? The repetitive, okay, repetitive strain injury, which is what? The RSI, okay? So means that because you're typing for too long, you're typing data for a long period of time, it can result to a form of injury to your fingers and wrist, which is the continual use of your keyboard, right? Or probably your mouse. Okay, so that can actually cause that. And to add the third one, we'll start seeing what we call the back and neck strain. So see the back and neck strain. And because you're typing or entering data for a long period of time, it can result to you sitting in front of a computer for a long period of time. So this can actually um, cause it. Okay, this can actually cause it. Let's look at question 10. The question 9b rather. Let's look at 9b. State 3 physical safety issues that can be caused by using a computer. Now, this will take us to chapter 8. In all my videos, I always give the chapters of where the quizzes are being set: safety and security. Now you see this under physical safety, right? You're going to see this under what? The physical safety. Very important. So the first one is I want to talk about physical safeties, state three physical safety issues that can be caused by using a computer. So we have electrocution. Electrocution. And when we talk about electrocution, it means when you spill drinks or liquid on electrical equipment or on your laptop. We can see it as exposed wires or damaged insulation. We can see it as unsafe electrical what? Equipment. So this can actually be a physical safety issue. Now, it's important for us to know that the physical safety and the health safety are always talked about interchangeably. But it's important to know that why the health safety is to stop people becoming ill or being affected by the daily contact with computer. Physical safety is concerned with the danger that could lead to serious injury or even the loss of life. So it's very important that we don't joke with these things. Okay. The next one is a fire hazard. A fire hazard. Now, when we talk about a fire hazard, it talks about when we overload our wall socket. Okay, that means we're plugging so many things into the wall socket, or we are overheating a computer equipment, and this could be due to a poor heat dissipation. Right, exposed wires can cause causing a short circuit that could lead to a fire hazard. So this is very important. Then we have tripping hazard. Tripping hazard. So we'll talk about tripping hazard. It means there are trailing wires on the floor. It could also lead to damaged carpet or and other flooring as well. And don't forget, we have the personal injuries. That simply means that when they are, I can probably put this in my note here. What you have for others, to here you have what? Personal injury. Okay, personal injury. Okay, so this simply means that when they are heavy equipment um, and they're unstable in the table, it can fall, right? It could be a desk that is not strong enough under the weight of heavy equipment that could, that can potentially fall. So um, uh, this is very important. Heavy equipment in an unstable or falling from decks or a desk collapsing under the weight of that's not designed to take such particular weight. So this is very important. Okay. Okay. Let's look at the next one. Um, the ICT department in a company is writing a report. Members of the department can communicate with other members using VoIP. Explain what is meant by VoIP, right? So you see this in chapter 6 of the textbook. Chapter 6, ICT application. And you see this under communications. If you look closely, you see it in communications, right? Communications. Okay, communications. You see it there, which is actually the first one, communications. Okay, so under the communication, it's important for us to understand that When we talk about the VoIP, it means voice over internet protocol. Yes, that's what it means. So they are all forms of mobile communications. Okay, so explain what is meant by VoIP. So when you see something, the first thing you look at is what is even the meaning of this? What's even the meaning of this? So the first one, if you see something like this, you start with the full meaning, right? Which means voice over internet protocol. That would give you a mark. Mhm. Okay. And when we talk about the voice over internet protocol, permit me to talk about it a bit. Now, it is one of the most common form of internet telephony. Yeah, that's another one. So it is an internet telephony. And what do we mean? That is you're making or having a telephone conversation via the internet. Via the internet. That's what you're doing. Okay? So it's a method where you used to talk to people using the internet. So that is just what it is. You're having a communication with people via the internet. So for what how many marks is this? This is 2 marks. Okay, so I'll probably just add this for others. Probably add this for others. We'll probably see as communication method, communication method over the internet. Okay, over the internet. All right, let's look at the next one. The head of the ICT department uploads the report onto the cloud. Describe the steps that members of the department must take to share and manage their work on the report. So describe the step that members of the department um, must take to share and manage their report. So you see this you see this in chapter 4, right? You see this in chapter 4 using cloud computing. Chapter 4, networks and the effects of using them. The effects of using them. Okay. So how do we do this? So the first thing we do here, and how many marks is this? 4 marks. So let's see how we can do on this is the steps. So members, and let's not forget when we look at the word describe, what we are simply saying as a command word is that we are stating the point of a topic and we're giving characteristics and the main features. This is very important. Okay, we're stating the point of a topic and we're giving the characteristics of the main features. So here we would see that members of the team logs into the cloud, whichever cloud it is. Now, of course, you know that we're not permitted to talk about the product. We can just talk about it generally as a cloud. Access to the document is given to the member of the team, members of the team. And once access is given, what happens? Members of the team can edit. So they have the edit button there they can use to edit the document. And of course, each change causes the document to be automatically saved. And it's important for you to know that all copies of the document are synced. Very important. Okay, so this is what happens literally because um, once the head of department uploads the report onto the cloud, and he must take to share and manage their work on the report. So everybody wants to write their report on it. So once they log into their cloud, they can access is now given. They can go to share by me. They can see it. They can edit the document, and each changes can cause the document to be automatically saved, and all copies of the document are synced. And the head of department can be able to see history of the changes that has been done on the sheet and can always go back to any of the point he or she wishes to go back to. Okay. A traffic management company is planning to improve traffic flow at a major road junction. A computer model is used before any changes are made to the junction. So let's highlight some of the key things here. It's planning to improve the traffic flow at major road junction, and they're using a computer model. Describe the benefit and drawbacks of a computer model. Now you see this in chapter 6, modeling application. That's the subtopic of the ICT application there. Okay, so you see that in um, I think that's like the second part after communications. Please let me know in the comment section if that is correct. Okay, so that's like 6.2. So describe the benefit and drawbacks of using a computer model. Now, when we talk about modeling, we have to make reference to what we call a simulation. Let me write this here. And simulations is the creation of a model of a real system in order to study the what behavior of the system. Okay, so the whole idea is to try to find out how a system behaves, and you are able to predict the behavior of the system in the future to see if there's any possible changes of that particular system. So let's talk about benefits and drawbacks really. Let's talk about it. Let's dwell on it because this is a very important um, key concept. Okay, let's talk about it, shall we? Hope we're having a good time. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is I always like putting the benefits. So let's look at that benefit. All right. So I'll start with my benefit here. Benefits. And one of the benefits is it can be used. It can be used to find unexpected what? Problems. Yeah. And also is able for financial or for anything to explore what if we do this, what if we do this, what if we do this. So it uses the what if what question. It can be tested safely safely under extreme conditions. Okay. And it is less expensive. It can be less expensive than having to build the real thing. Let's talk about drawbacks. I think we've tracked this a little bit. Let's talk about drawbacks. Drawbacks. Let's talk about drawbacks. The cost is a problem. The cost of setting up a computer model can equally be high. Computer model can be high. Okay, mistakes is bound to happen. So there's mistakes that can. So it simply means that a model is only as good as the programming entered. So it would depend heavily on these two factors. So mistakes can be made in the programming. Maybe made in the programming. Okay, for others, quickly, I think we've tracked up a little bit. For others, okay, reaction, people's reaction, yeah, people's reaction. And I use the word people's reaction to the result of a simulation may not be positive. They may not trust the result of a computer. How do we even know this is real? How do we even know this is real? So people's reaction to the result of a simulation. Simulation. Okay, let's put that simulation. May not be positive. And why? They may not trust the result it produces. Cannot take into account all variables. Okay. Okay, so this is all there is to this. Okay. Okay. All right, let's look at the next one. The junction has 4 roads and uses traffic light to control the traffic flow through the junction. Explain how the computer model operates. Let's explain how the computer model operates. So since it has 4 roads, let's take note of the keywords. 4 roads, it uses the traffic light to control the traffic flow to the junction. Okay, so let's see how we can put this into work. So the first thing here is data is entered into the model. If you forget anything, don't forget this. It's entered into the model. And the computer model is one. Computer model is one. Okay. Now another thing is it also incorporates the vary timing of the traffic light. Okay. And it would also increase the number of vehicles at the junction. It would also look at, okay, I think we've dragged off also. I think here, what I think it would look at, so I'll probably just do for others, it would consider emergency vehicles. Emergency vehicles. It would consider different times of days. Times of days. And it can also consider the increased number of pedestrians. So these are so many things to consider. There's so many things to write. Consider an increase in the number of pedestrians at the crossing. Okay? And all this is to see, probably put this, all this is to see how it affects the traffic flow. Okay, so I think also you can change the values. Note, you can change the value, change the values to test for dangerous situations. Okay. All right. So this is also chapter 6. This is also chapter 6, ICT application. Okay, question 12. A company produces medicine. Chemists working in the company use 3D printers. The 3D printer is an example of an output device. Name 3 other output devices. So look at this. This is chapter 2, input and output devices. Okay, so let's look at them. So we have monitor, we have speakers, we have printers. Okay, for others, we have multimedia, multimedia projector. We also have touchscreen as an output. A chemist used the 3D printer to produce customized tablets. Describe how a 3D printer produces a customized tablet. Now, we would see this in chapter 6. ICT application. So let's describe how it does. So what it does is, now the whole idea of the 3D printer is to produce solid objects. Now, when we bring it into production in medicine, okay, so what we see is that we can be able to um, produce customized tablets, right? We can use it for surgical and diagnostic aid. But now they say, how do they produce a customized tablet? Okay, so the first thing we look at is the data is entered. That's the first thing. You have to enter the data. So data is entered. The material used in the tablet is missed. Okay. The 3D printer is filled with the mixture. Okay. And the printer, so the material used in the tablet is mixed, the printer is filled with the mixture. The printer then repeat the process repeats the process over hundreds of layers. And then layers build up the tablet. Okay. A company is planning a new, and by the way, you probably see this is a computer in medicine. By the way, if you're wondering, you see this in computers in medicine. Computers in medicine. So a company is planning a new computer system. The current system needs to be analyzed. Identify two methods of analyzing the current system. So you see this in chapter 7. The system life cycle. And in the system's life cycle, we have analysis, um, we have design, we have development and testing, we have implementation, we have documentation, and then we have evaluation. Now, how do we analyze the current system? What are the methods of analyzing the current system? And this is important. And why this is because when we're analyzing the system, we need a computer professional. to be able to check to see how well the current system is working, thereby making suggestions. So every system has organization might decide to say, okay, I want to make an improvement to my system. And then they bring in the system analyst. And there are certain reasons. It could be the system is now obsolete, changes in or to laws, or more suitable address is now available. And this is important. This is important. So when we are analyzing, we have stages and we have methods. The stages of analyzing the coin system is quite different from the methods, because the methods the method talks about researching the coin system, identification of input and output, what processes takes place, problem with the coin system, user requirement for the new system, what are the information requirement, identifying hardware and software for the new system. But when we talk about the methods, we're talking about the first one. What are the methods of now researching or analyzing the coin system? We have four. And this right here, I would do all of them. So we have observation, we have questionnaires, probably put this for others, we have interviews, and then we have examination of existing document. Okay, so this is the end for this video. I would it's been chapter 7, chapter 6, chapter 2. I don't see chapter 3 here. There've been chapter 4, just one chapter 5, there've been chapter 6, there've been chapter 8. I don't see chapter 9, I don't see chapter 10. So I think across board is a fairly easy paper, right? It's I think it's an easy paper really, because not too much complexity. Yes, there've been 6 markers, 4 markers, but of course this is definitely to be expected. So please do well to share this video with your friends, and if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, you probably want to do that. And I'll see you in the next one. Um, Bye for now.